Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Real welcome back to episode 132. Ironically enough, this one is called
Making a Comeback.
If you noticed that we haven't been here for a couple of weeks, we had some people reach out, wellness check. We actually recorded the next two episodes and then had a lot of tech issues. Thank you, Coach Chris, for dealing with those. So we are now redoing those episodes. And good news for you is they'll be better than ever. So
I think so. It's always easier the second time.
Yeah, I mean, we really liked them, and now we get to redo them to share with all of you.
I was both the attempted solution and the problem here for these last two episodes, so I'm excited to make a comeback here with everybody. But let's talk about why we're talking about this topic right now. Right.
So we have a lot of athletes out there that really don't know how to restart, how to start. What you guys don't know is what we see all the time is that comeback is really sweeter than you thought it could ever be. So instead of being this big, heavy thing, it can actually be pretty amazing. And that's obviously why we're talking about it. But a lot of you all out there, are kind of on that before end of things, right? So you might have imposter syndrome. You have a ton of self-doubt. You have unhealthy doses of negative self-talk. And what we want you to know through this episode is that you are not alone at all.
Yeah, so whether people are coming back from injury or feeling deconditioned, or if you've had a big race, right? Coming back after a big race is also a comeback because we're in a different mental state now. We talked about post-race blues. We know that we always take time off after a race, and inevitably, I think it's part of the cycle of training, right? Is that you will make comebacks, and whether that's any of those reasons listed before, or coming into fitness for the first time into a new sport, could also be sort of thought of as a comeback. But I'm finding this a lot with athletes who not only are feeling deconditioned, but also athletes who are hitting some birthdays.
Yeah.
And feeling like...
age, for sure.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just because we're getting older, too.
Well, that's definitely top of mind. But it's thinking about how will I ever get back to the place where I was? Or how do I even begin to restart my fitness journey?
Yeah, and I think this is really, really hard for endurance athletes specifically. I know that not everyone who listens identifies that way, but it tends to hit them in a different kind of harder way because they, especially pre-COVID, I think a lot of us feel this way. There was like this pinnacle version of themselves, whether that's as a triathlete or a marathoner or an endurance cyclist. And so they're always just comparing themselves to that and thinking, I'll never get back there. And like you said, how do I even restart?
Yeah, and that we're going to talk about that comparison trap. We've done past episodes on that, but also as part of this making a comeback. So I know you've been having a lot of conversations with athletes who are doing intakes or athletes who are restarting or even people who were former members who are coming back. And this has been a top of mind topic here too, right?
Yeah, and it's just been such a privilege, honestly, to speak with them. I always joke that I don't have feelings, but the stuff that they are answering with of like, why now? Because that's my big thing. It's like, why now? What is it about right now that makes you want to restart or recommit, in any way, form? And their answers have been almost like take my breath away. They say things like, I don't want to be the person that says no to doing things. Like if my friends are going out for a 30-mile bike ride, I want to be able to say yes because I want to see what this version of my body can do. That's a really healthy one, especially coming back, post-surgery or even post-pregnancy. There are ways of wanting to restart that have really healthy framing that you all should know about so that you can latch onto them too.
Yeah. So I think the pregnancy one is big also as life changes happen, but one that I'm also hearing is that I need structure.
Yeah.
So people have been without their set schedule for so long, and having that structure and that accountability, they're nervous about it and trying to figure out how to do it on their own isn't working anymore.
And know that especially with that structure piece, that is everyone, right? That is not, I think people feel very isolated and like, I just can't get my shit together. Can we cuss on this?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Whole new era of Coach Quip coming at you.
With a little E on the explicit.
Potty mouth Leland is here. But truly, it is the number one thing that we probably do here in the last 4 years is that I don't do well without structure. I need to, know what I'm doing. So I encourage you all, we'll get into this more in the bonus miles too, but as a coach, just asking what people need. And then just as a friend, like I saw one of my neighbors a couple months ago and, invited them in for coffee because it was stupid early in the morning and we both have dogs. And it came out that she was like, I need to get up in the morning and work out to make sure that it gets done. I just need to make sure that happens. How do I do that? And I was like, well, lucky for you. We have a challenge coming up, right? Stay tuned because we probably will have one coming up in the next month or so too, a kickstart. But it just proves that just even asking someone, like, what are you struggling with, from a fitness journey or health journey, they will tell you. And then chances are you have some hacks that can help them, or you can be like, let me email Robyn and see if I can bring my friend with me, right? And that can really be the start of people really having that comeback.
And for those of us on our fitness journey already, chances are good that we were in this position at one point, right? Like, I don't know how to start, or I'm interested in this thing and I'd like to get into it. And almost every single person has a person or a group that pulled them in the way that you pulled in your neighbor. And so every single person has that ability to either help somebody make their comeback or has been influenced, by other people on their own journey.
So the comeback ripple effect.
The comeback ripple effect. I love it. Coin that TM.
Check.
Now at Edge.
That shit's ours.
Now at Edge. Well, in our bonus miles, we're going to talk about the different, about how to make a comeback and why the comeback can be even sweeter than you thought.
First up, how to make a comeback, right? These are small, actionable things that you can do. First up, I love James Clear. Actually, Patty Flynn, our GM extraordinaire, wants to bring back, I guess, have a comeback for a book club. And she wants to start with Atomic Habits. Lucky for you, I will also be there. So big things, small habits, create them, celebrate them, right? So if we have had like an Ironman athlete that, recently had really a ton of trouble restarting, and, he really compares himself to like full volume, 20 hours a week. I'm like, whoa, we're going to go 4 weeks nailing 3 workouts, 1 swim, 1 bike, 1 run, 1 strength. So it's actually 4, but 3 cardio a week. We just want to see where they work best. We just want them to go green. They're not going to be super long. We want you to start finding that rhythm. And I'm happy to report that he has been green.
Yeah, and then that rolls right into 4 or 5 workouts a week, right?
Yep.
And then you build and stack from there. I think you can probably leave it there because if anybody has listened to our past episodes, you basically know the book already from the bits and pieces that Coach Robyn has dropped about creating habits, but there's a reason we started with that one.
It's going to be a fast read for all of you listeners.
It's a very fast read. But there's a reason we started with that one, because it is so important, and it's really just like such a key to success that's so achievable.
Yeah, and really fulfilling. I think, looking at, 4 years ago, it would have been like 30-minute walk run, right? But now it's like, I did that, right? The comeback it's pretty sweet.
Yep. Next up is to make it fun. And I feel like this is one that we've been talking about in different formats in the past episodes we've been doing, like the magic of time-based training. So choosing a different metric of success is a great way to make it fun. And we went into that in that episode. Choosing a sport that excites you or a workout that excites you. If you are just trying to get back to it, you're not going to jump back into your most punishing workouts from your last training cycle. Like, you need to find what, and I said this in our rapid fire wisdom one, what is the advice I had for people setting a goal? It's to find what lights you up, what makes you excited, what is going to get you out the door and get you into that workout. Yep. And that's really what we should be focusing on.
And it doesn't have to be the same sport either, right? Like, we have a few athletes that are super jazzed to try a new sport, and they were almost feeling guilty about like choosing tennis over triathlon, and I'm like, go for it. If you are excited and you're going to do it, like, we ultimately just want you to be healthier humans. Like, get that racket, dive in.
Yeah, paddle tennis is apparently a thing. It's not pickleball and It's not tennis. But there are courts all around Chicago now, and some of my athletes...
Paddle tennis?
Paddle tennis.
How is it different?
It's a paddle, a flat paddle with a tennis ball, I think. I don't know. It's the same premise, but it's a paddle sport.
Okay, I'm here for it.
It's good, though. Lots of cross-training, lots of lateral movement, which we don't get in our sports. So I'm here for it, too. It's something that has really made them excited to keep moving, and then we roll that into their training when the time comes.
Yeah, absolutely. Have fun with it. Next up is keeping it tight. Not light, but tight, right? So don't feel the need. Again, pre-COVID, I feel like everything was wide open. Everything's on Strava. Everything's on Garmin. Everybody's connected on the Nike running app. You do not have to share your information and what you do unless it's motivating to you. If that's motivating and you like that accountability, great. But if you're like me, I keep it tight. I keep my races tight. I don't need people asking me about what I'm doing. If you ask me, the answer is going to be nothing, just so you know. But there's a beauty in that, removing that pressure that social media and, tied fitness channels can really, they can feel heavy at times, especially if we're rocking times or distances that didn't used to be how we trained. So keep those cards tight to your chest, and at the end of the day, you looking in the mirror and realizing that you did something to be 1% better, that for me is so much more fulfilling than any post to Strava could be.
Yeah, I agree. I'm also a secret racer, and I think there is...
I don't even think we tell each other what we're doing.
No, that is true. That is true after the fact. What was that? And also, I heard you say to somebody the other day that you were training for nothing, and I was like, I don't believe you.
It's fun, keep them guessing.
Yeah, exactly. Well, next up is to not be afraid to do something different. And I think that's also a great thing. If you're going to keep it tight-lipped, you can totally go into a different direction. So a lot of times we get stuck in thinking about ourselves as a 5K racer, or I'm a marathoner. I could never do something else. But there are so many options of fun things to do out there. And if doing what you used to do feels like a lot of pressure, which is usually the one of the issues is our ego or our self-doubt. Will I ever make the times that I accomplished, or the placement that I accomplished in the past? Do something different and relieve some of that pressure from yourself.
Yeah, and I had an athlete recently that is a pretty accomplished endurance athlete and having a lot of trouble navigating schedule and travel and just a lot going on. And so did a step bet instead and said, we're going to hit this many steps, and it could be walk, it could be run, but it was just a completely different way to measure how much he was moving. And it definitely helped take the pressure off, and he's stacking he realized through that he could actually figure out how to get back to running continuously in a pretty creative way, and it has really sparked a fire. I've never seen so many comments in Training Peaks, which makes me really pumped. Next up is seeking support. So you can tell people, right? But just choose who you tell, right? It can be a friend, it can be a teammate, it can be a coach. And really, this one is really important, especially from the coach standpoint. If you have a coach, either here at Edge or otherwise, or if you are personally coached here at Edge, share your deepest, darkest fears with them, because I have gotten really forward with asking, which is what prompted the idea for this entire episode of why now? What are you so scared of? And it really, really helps flush it out, almost like writing it in a journal. I'm going to tell you what it is, and then instead of it coming true, we realize there's a way for this not to happen, right? And it really, really alleviates a lot of what that anxiety is about that restart and that comeback. Even for me, I still seek support, right? So if I am training for something, I don't need to do 20 miles on my own on trail. I will strategically choose, friends and athletes of mine that I trust with my secret, right? And be like, hey, can you come out for 10 miles or so? And it's really nice, because they know that they have something special that they know about you, and you know that you're doing something special, and it creates this perfect little bond.
Yeah, and you want to be careful about the people that you're seeking out, right? These should be your most encouraging, non-judgmental friends and teammates that, we want somebody who's going to be that supportive person when you have self-doubt, is going to help you get out the door.
Yep, absolutely. This leads right into the next one.
Yeah, so letting go of other people's perceptions. What other people think of you is none of your business, so don't worry about it, especially in the comeback. No one else is going back in your Strava and looking at your past workouts and your past times and your past splits, and you shouldn't do that either. Like, we need to be gentle on ourselves. And I think a lot of times, this is, again, the ego part of what will people think if I'm running slower than I used to run, or if I'm not doing as much distance or volume as I used to do. And the truth is, it doesn't matter. It does not matter what other people think. And the people who are important to you, whose opinions that you do value, are going to love and support you through this process of making a comeback no matter what. So that's really what we should be focusing on, and just releasing other people's judgments. It's so freeing, and it just gives you a clear pathway to make the comeback that you want to make without all of this extra pressure.
Yeah, I love that. Now my favorite part of this whole episode is why the comeback is sweeter than ever before. And having experienced this, I know myself, you've had the same thing. It is just, I've learned so much more about myself in the last, 3 years of trying to rebuild, post break and tear and blah, 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 right? And I'm not only coming back from, a hard societal shift, but I think that reminding people of why it can be awesome is a lot of times what gets them started. So first up, we've got frequent wins. Positive traction is happening a lot. So you have a lot to celebrate every single day, every single week, right? So like my athlete that we needed to have him nail a swim, a bike, and a run. At the end of the day, he worked out for, 1.5 to 2 hours in a week where he was at a 0 before. That is a win, right? Mm-hmm. And then the second week, he was able to make it 10 minutes longer, right? And that is a gigantic lift. Yes, did it pale in comparison to what he did 4 years ago? Yeah, but who cares about that? This is what you're doing now. Along with things like benchmarks. So I have my athletes that are easing back in, do 2-mile time trials, which are terrible. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I write those in. But, you can do them every 3 to 4 weeks and really start to see that progress. And it doesn't always mean you're going like forward. So you might have a little plateau that might be indicative of like lack of sleep and that type of stuff. But you have the ability to find those nuggets pretty frequently.
Yeah, and it's about shifting your perspective too, right? Because what you would have celebrated in the past, is not the same things that you'll be celebrating now. So thinking about that perspective shift and knowing that every day there are opportunities to have those celebrations, and that is really important. So the next one kind of rolls in. These are big mental gains. So the mental boost that comes, I think, is better than the physical boost in terms of stacking these bricks and making a comeback.
We had an athlete, that recently rejoined. He fell off during COVID and came back, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 months ago. Endurance athlete, wanted to really just get his foundation back because he was in no shape to be able to do what he wanted to do from an endurance standpoint, didn't really have a desire to, but did want to put together some bricks from a strength standpoint. So within 2.5, 3 weeks, he was coming in 2 to 3 times a week to do strength sessions with us. And he made the comment of like, I'm so much more mentally clear during the day. He's like, physically, I know that I'm still building back from being just totally deconditioned, but he's like, I'm holding myself up better. I feel better throughout the day. It's getting easier to wake up. And he's like I knew physically I needed to get better. I didn't realize that mentally I needed the bump too.
The momentum is just so big, and you like 2 to 3 weeks, really that is like the time period where we start to make and see those changes in ourselves, where we're starting to establish new patterns, new habits, and it feels so good to make it over that, like not just the I feel like I'm extra sore in the first 2 to 3 weeks of making a comeback in the strength classes, or extra exhausted in those runs. And at a certain point, it just starts to feel better, and that is such a mental boost.
Yeah, I feel like I spoiler alerted this next comment already, but one of the things that Coach Bennett, who's the global head coach of Nike Running, talks about is going to bed at night and you're brushing your teeth in the mirror and looking at yourself in the mirror and knowing that you've done something that day to be better, right? He says 1% better, but in general, you've done something, you've, like you say, kept your promises to yourself. Mm-hmm. And whether it's a 30-minute run or a 10-mile run, you can still look at yourself in the mirror at night and be really satisfied with what you did. And that can be incredibly uplifting and really start that wonderful cycle happening again.
The next benefit is gratitude. So heaps of gratitude. Really, this is a cool thing that happens with that mental shift that happens, right? The big mental gains kind of flows right into this because we start to see that the negative self-talk that we've had starts to get replaced by more positive affirmations. So there is something really powerful about keeping your promise to yourself and being able to brush your teeth before bed and know that you are making steps towards accomplishing what it is that you want to do. And especially now in so many different things want our attention, so many different things are time sucks.
Yeah.
You know, to carve out that time and prioritize your fitness and your fitness journey, there's so much to be grateful for. And so that you'll start to see those mental shifts that happen where you are just proud of yourself and happy that you were able to do the 20 minutes consecutive run where maybe that wasn't, you know, your baseline in the past. But as you start to build, there are so many points at which we can celebrate those accomplishments and then get the mental benefits of the positive self-talk and momentum that comes with that.
All right, next up is improved present focus, because here's the deal. When you're making a comeback, it really is day to day, right? You get to rebuild and focus on not what can I do in the next 6 months? What can I do in the next year? It's like, no, what can I do now, right? And that is really, really, really powerful because it also allows us to now focus on the past or the future, right? Mm-hmm. So by literally seeing your little green box, like on my betting app, check green, I get really excited about that. I'm not worried about how yesterday's stuff went, and I certainly don't need to know what's going on tomorrow. But in that moment, green check.
It's so smart that they do that too. It's the dopamine hit of of likes on social media. It really is that you can have pride in accomplishing that.
Yep.
It's super smart.
I want it to have like confetti and stuff too, though.
Yeah.
I do it when I get it all the way through, but I want everyday confetti. I'll write them.
Yeah, message them on that. The final benefit here, and it was alluded to at the top, but is you will inspire someone, like without question, whether it is a family member, a spouse, a coworker, a family member, a friend, you know, a random person at your gym is going to be inspired by watching you make your comeback. And that is such an incredible gift, not just to yourself to invest the time and energy in making that comeback, but what an opportunity to share your journey with other people and inspire them to maybe take on things that they're afraid of taking that first step on.
Remember those questions. Why now, right?
Yeah.
Why now? So the comeback, we've covered how to make the comeback and maybe even more importantly, why it's sweeter now than ever before.
Thanks for joining us in our comeback episode after our 2-week hiatus. Thanks for coming back, and we will see you next week.
Later.
Thanks for listening to Coach Quip, original music performed by Mend. Follow us online on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Edge Athlete Lounge. Our podcast lives in the blog section of our website. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast, and you can check out the show notes for additional ways to contact us. Ready, set, onward we go.